thanks for stopping by. This is Teresa from Sami Dolls. I thought I'm showing you how I recently made myself a kimono inspired dress. And I'm basing this on a dress I'm currently wearing. I just took it out of the cupboard and now I'm tracing around to get an idea of how wide and how long and how big I have to make my pattern. I had a look online for some inspiration and I just came up with this idea. So there is not a pattern, I'm not working with a pattern that I purchased, and I'm not going to sell the pattern for this dress, but I might be making a doll dress that is inspired by this one soon. So first I'm starting off with the front pattern, just tracing it around. I'm making really wide sleeves and this crossover thing, so this is what my front pattern piece looks like. Blending it in here to help you out to see it a little bit, because I'm a big lady, so I couldn't get all the pattern pieces into the screen here, so I thought I might make up some little drawings to show you, so you can get an idea of what I'm doing here. Now I'm drawing the back pattern piece. This is what it looks like, sort of. Cutting it out. So I'm making two parts. I'm making the top part and the skirt bottom part, and then I'm making a big wide belt in the middle. Now I'm making the belt here, just measuring how long it will be. I want the belt to wrap around the front and then the back and then back to the front, so it needs to be fairly long. This is sort of the structure of the belt. It is like a really long rectangle, and then it has pointy ends, and in the very end I'm putting in little straps to tie a bow in the front of the dress. But you'll see it later on. So this starts in the front, then I'm imagining this goes around the back, and then it comes back to the front. And that's where I'm going to attach my long straps with which I will tie the bow in the front. Measuring how long and thin it has to be. I'm cutting it. This is really handy tissue paper that I'm using to make my patterns. Really nice stuff. So now I'm measuring the skirt, how long I want it to be. I want it to be a bit longer than the dress that I have here, so I want it to be about 28 inches. I ended up cutting it to about 33 inches in the end, I think. And I'm measuring the front of the dress, and I'm making the ruffle about 4 times as long as that, so I get a good body for the skirt. Now I'm pinning my pattern pieces onto the fabric and cutting them out with about 1/2 inch of a seam allowance, just to be safe that it fits all. I want a bit of room in there so I can feel comfortable wearing that dress, moving around. This is the back. Now I'm cutting the front piece. I can't fold the fabric in half for that because it's a bit too wide, because I'm a big lady, remember? So I'm pinning the pattern piece to the fabric so it doesn't go anywhere, and then I'm cutting it out again. Need to cut out 2 of those, so I need 2 front pieces. So now I'm measuring the skirt again on my actual fabric. This is a nice taffeta that I picked up at the op shop. I was really lucky to find this one at the op shop. Such a beautiful orange color. It looks so pretty in the sunlight. Now I'm using my fabric marker to mark the fabric to make sure that I'm cutting a straight line. Even though it's just for like a costume party and I'm probably only going to wear it once, I want it sort of to be nice and not too dodgy. But I don't put too much pressure on myself because it is just a one-time thing. So, and now I'm cutting out the belt. I'm using this pretty matching fabric that'll match the taffeta. And now the pointy bit of the belt. I'm cutting it into pieces so that I know where to cut it. So the front bit I need to cut on the fold, and the side or pointy bits I'm going to just need to cut two from each fabric. I'm going to cut it from inside and outside fabric. So I'm using this pretty embroidered shiny floral fabric, and then my taffeta for the back side of the belt that no one's gonna see. Now I'm cutting it from the taffeta as well, just pinning my belt piece that I just cut out on the taffeta, so I know I'm cutting it to the exact same size. I wonder how it's going to be for the doll dress, if I do it similar or if I come up with a bit of an easier solution for the doll size. It's going to be interesting. Now the middle part of the belt. Just aligning it on the fabric, pinning it in place and cutting it out. Oh, I wish I could do it as fast as I can do it with this fast forward thing. It actually took me like all day long to make this dress, and now I put it together into a 21-minute video. So now I just folded the end strap for the belt and folded it in half. And now I'm cutting the bias tape that I'm going to use to hem all the raw edges. It gives it a nice little, you know, extra pretty shine to it. Now I'm sewing together the bias tape on a 45-degree angle. I might make an extra video on how to actually sew bias tape a little bit slower so that you can follow it a little bit easier. But there are probably some YouTube tutorials already online, but of course I always want to have my own little Sami dolls tutorials here, so you can find it all in one place. Just making a really long bias tape. Now I'm pressing the seams open and iron them. It's not that easy with this slippery fabric, but I just really want this fabric to hem my edges of the dress. It's really not easy to make bias tape with, but challenge accepted, right? Now I have this handy bias tape maker. I just have to put it in there, and then it's ironing and folding it at the same time. Really handy. I must say, with this fabric it didn't really work that well. It didn't really fold because it's just, I don't know, the fabric is too slippery, I guess. But I got a bit of a hint of the folds, and I'll be able to pin it to my dress later on. So now I have to assemble the front and back parts of the top of the dress, just pinning it all in place. And I want to show you a solution on how to sew the seams without an overlocker. So I'm just folding over the seams twice, the edges, and then I'm sewing it. You can do that on your sewing machine, so you have really pretty seams without any raw edges showing anywhere, and you don't have to finish the edges or anything. You just fold it over twice, fold it under as thin and small as possible, so you have a nice and pretty and even seam there. Gee, this is fast. Okay, now I can pin my bias tape to the raw edge. I'm pinning it to the neckline now, to the back of the top of the dress and the front pieces that are overlapping in the front. The crossover top, I think they call it. This was like the most tedious and longest and annoying part of the whole process, to pin these meters upon meters of bias tape to the raw edges, but I got it done in the end and it was worth it. It looks so pretty on the edges now. Very, very pretty. Okay, so that's my neckline. And now I'm also pinning it some to the sleeves. Finishing the sleeve edge like that. Always making sure that everything is tucked under right, because I think I had to undo a part of the seam somewhere because it didn't catch the fabric on both sides, because it's just such a flimsy and slippery fabric. And of course I'm pinning the other sleeve as well. And then I'm going to sew it all in place. I wish I could do it that quickly. Okay, now let's sew. Doesn't this look nice? I think they work really well together, those two fabrics. So all in all, this dress cost me about $15, I think, with all the materials used. I was really lucky to find that pretty orange taffeta for so cheap at the op shop or Goodwill store. There we go. This is the front now, and the sleeves all nicely hemmed with a pretty shiny bias tape. So now let's assemble the top. Gotta close those side seams, and this time, first I'm sewing the crossover top in place, just the front, the crossover thing, so it doesn't go anywhere. Let's just sew that down. And then I also sewed this crossing, the little place where the front top pieces cross. I sewed that in place so it doesn't go anywhere. In hindsight, I should have sewn the whole thing down because I had like an opening there, but that doesn't matter. You can do that if you want to follow this tutorial and use it to make your own kimono dress. You'll do it better than me, right? So here I'm closing the side seams now, the sleeves and the side of the bodice, and this time I'm using my overlocker because it's just so much more convenient and it finishes the edges at the same time. But I will also additionally sew it with my sewing machine because I don't want the white thread to show through. So I'm just sewing along the seam there with my orange thread as well. And now I'm assembling the skirt. I'm just closing it at both sides. My fabric ended up being wide enough, so I just needed 2 skirt pieces, and now I'm assembling them on both side seams. And now I have like a round, the fabric is closed, it's like a big whole circle thingy, big skirt. And now I'm going to take my bias tape again and pin it to the bottom edge of the skirt, and that was probably even 4 times as long as the neck and sleeves opening. I might just cut the fast forward here. So once I'm done pinning all the bias tape to the bottom edge of the skirt, I'm just sewing it in place again. And then I'm gathering the top edge of the skirt. I'm using my overlocker to do that. I'm probably going to make a video about how I'm adjusting my overlocker settings to gather the fabric. but you can also gather it by hand. And then I'm pinning the top of the dress to the bottom skirt, just turning the top part inside out so they match up right sides together, and then I'm sewing both parts together, and then we're sort of nearing the end already with our dress tutorial. And after I assembled the top and the bottom, I'm top stitching along the seam I just sewed. Now it's time to make the belt already, so I'm pinning the belt pieces right sides together and assembling it. So now I'm pinning the pointy bits to the middle part, to the rectangular middle part, as you can see in the little drawing up the top of the screen here. And I'm doing the same for the back side fabric, for the other side that no one will ever see, even though it's really pretty, so I wouldn't mind if anyone saw it. Just sewing the pointy bit to the front thing, and now we're adding the belt thing, the ties that are going to be sewn to the pointy bit later on. And now it's fiddly time turning them inside out, and for turning them inside out I'm using the turning tool, which is really handy. So you just stick the tube in there, and then you have the wooden stick and somehow turn it all inside out. I'm going to show that in more detail and a bit slower in another video as well. Now I'm pinning the straps, the ties, to the long belt. I think if I ever make a dress like this again, I would line the fabric with an interfacing to give it a bit more body and to make it a bit more sturdy, because in the end my belt turned out a bit, a bit floppy. But it's still beautiful. I just would put a thick interfacing in there so it looks a bit nicer. But with this kind of fabric it would have been probably a bit of a pita anyway. P-I-T-A, if you know what I mean. Okay, now I'm pinning the back and the front fabrics of the belt together, right sides together, with the straps or the ties wedged in between. And I'm going to leave a turning hole on one side so I can turn it inside out later on. Let's get started with the sewing. So I'm sewing all the way around my little belt wedge thingy that I just made. And you can see how the fabric is fraying already. So, it's a real terrible fabric to work with, but we like a good challenge, right? So all the way around, and in the end I'm leaving the turning hole I just talked about. Then I'm going to turn it inside out and top stitch to finish the belt. Now we can turn it inside out. Turning. It's quite easy with that silky, soft, smooth fabric. Now I'm pinning the turning hole, and I'm going to sew over it and sew it shut, and sew all the way around the belt. I just can't get over how pretty it is. It's so pretty. I love all these orange, yellow, red, warm colors. So pretty. And there we go, all done. That's the dress that I'm going to wear to my friend's party. I hope you liked this project. Let me know if you want to make a dress like this too in the comments, and please give me a like, subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. I'd love to see you over there. See you next time. Bye!